welcome back to Julie's Village. I'm glad you're here. Today I have my good friend Carrie Van Leuven with me. And Carrie and I first met several years ago. We went go to the same church, and I think one of our first interactions, I watched a couple of her older girls, and our paths have just kept crossing ever since then. But I'm excited to have her here with us because she is a parent of a daughter with autism. And I think that there's so much value in sharing each other's stories, sharing our stories with each other. So often, as she's listening, you may not be able to, or as she's speaking, you may not be able to relate to everything she shares. But I think there will be quite a few things that other people can relate to. And hopefully, as you listen to her story, you will learn some things that help with your story. So, Carrie, I'm going to turn it over to you. And will you please just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your family?
Okay, my name's Carrie Van Leuven. I currently live in Murtaugh, Idaho. We used to live in Boise. That's where I met Julie. I have a husband and four daughters, two son-in-laws, and four grandkids, and lots of grand dogs. So we are dog people.
I
And
love
sa-
that.
and my daughter Rudy, who has autism, she loves dogs as well. Um, so currently what I'm doing is I teach PE at an elementary school. I'm also an early morning seminary teacher, and we have a hobby farm that we purchased in hopes for it to be something for Rudy to do. And so that's what we're working towards with that. I enjoy swimming and biking and anything active. It's hard to hold me down. I just love to do stuff. Um, and that's me.
I love that. And how old is Rudy now?
She is 21.
Wow, time really flies.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your experience with autism prior to having Rudy. What did you already know? What things maybe were kind of new to you?
Well, I didn't know a lot about autism. However, I grew up in a community where there was a family with, I think, three children that were had autism, and they had other things as well. I wasn't educated, so I wasn't sure, but I that word was thrown around, and um they were scary. They were very violent. This is a long time ago. This was before anybody knew how to help them, what they needed, why their reactions were they were. And one was even institutionalized because they were so dangerous. And so when I heard autism, I immediately went there. That is all that I knew. And it was scary for me, but it definitely affected how we decided to handle it and raise Rudy.
Well, tell me a little bit more about that experience. When did you first start to think that maybe there was something going on beyond the typical, and what were some of those things that you decided to do differently based off of your prior experience?
So we were kind of an interesting situation. There's a 6 year gap between my next daughter and Rudy. And so it'd been a while since I'd had a toddler, and I wasn't aware that we weren't meeting milestones necessarily. And then when she did do odd things. She liked to run around the room and flap. She liked to open and shut things a lot. But around 3, she started losing any language that she had, um, and was speaking gibberish type things. And I thought, well, that's odd. And then we did Black Friday shopping. I left her with my sister, who's a school teacher. And she said, Carrie, you need to go take her to be tested for early intervention. There's something here. And so I did. I took her advice, but even before then, I had enrolled her in a preschool group where they'd rotate homes. And when they came to my home to do preschool, I was blown away as she was so far behind and she was so not even a part of what was happening. And we went and had her tested at the school, and then that got us be able to get an appointment. And back then there was only one person in the whole state. We had to wait 6 months to get her tested. And without the diagnosis, we couldn't receive any help or treatment. And that's the way it used to be. And it was kind of hard as far as that goes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I, Carrie and I were talking prior to this interview, and we were talking about the fact that as she was raising Rudy, there wasn't a lot out there. Not a lot of resources, and even the internet it had some stuff on there, but it wasn't as helpful, I guess, as it is now.
Yeah.
There wasn't as much information. So tell us a little bit about that. What did you find especially challenging as you were raising Rudy?
Well, I made a list when I saw that we were going to talk about that. One of the things, chewing her food was terrifying. She loved to chew her food and then she'd hide it in the roof of her mouth. And so every night I would have to do a finger sweep because my terrified she would choke to death like in the middle of the night. And we're talking about a 4 clear until she was probably 8 that we had to deal with that. She just liked to suck on things, and she would, put bruises on her arms and things like that. Just because that was one of the things, her sensory things that she liked. Potty training was a bear. I remember, I'll get to that. Sleeping, it is still, now she's old enough, understands, hey, everybody else is asleep. I'll just stay in my room most of the time. That's what happens. But sleep was not something that we enjoyed very often. That was a hard thing for her, was to sleep. Those were the big ones. And then transitioning from one thing to the next, that's huge for people that have autism. And leaving home, that's still probably number one. We don't want to leave home. She has some other special gifts. She doesn't have a short-term memory. And so that's probably one of our biggest struggles. We lived here for 5 years till she remembered where her room was in our house. When we made the move, she would go, this room, right? Or, she would have to go and look in it and go, oh, yep, this is my room. In a school setting, that's a little terrifying. It took her quite a while to figure out where the restrooms were. She does have court order that she's never to be alone because of these things. And so, anyways, so that's probably one of our biggest struggles. And that doesn't necessarily come with autism. It's just an added bonus that we get there.
Which I think that's so common with people's story, right? And so often we think like autism, so it looks like this, but everybody's unique.
Yes.
Yeah, just because you have a diagnosis doesn't mean that you won't have other diagnoses throughout your life as well.
Yeah, it's been easy to see, and a doctor once told me that every one of us have these things that these people and children that have autism do. Theirs are just amplified, and it's specific things that are amplified. So everybody is different, whether, just like I might be really great at tying my shoe and Julie is just horrible at it. So it's just one of those things. It's just, it's just the different things and the different strengths and weaknesses, just like everybody else. It's just amplified.
Yeah. Any other struggles that you wanted to mention?
I did want to mention my struggle through the struggles.
Yes, please do.
That's what this is really all about. A very wise doctor told me when she was diagnosed, this is not your fault. Every mom is going to say it's their fault. And that's natural instinct because it's not your fault. This is just what it is. And he also said, the other thing you have to remember is your family needs to be happy because this person that has autism can't be happy if it's an unhappy environment. So you can't just throw everything on that person and all your attention. You have to create a happy home life and then do what you can to help the person with autism progress the best that they can. And I thought that was some of the best advice. As we went through these different transitions that I talked about, like I remember praying, please, Lord, let her stop putting food in her mouth. Or please, I'll take care of her. Just no, I don't want to do diapers until I'm 70. Can we just, and then we get over that milestone. And then sure enough, there'd be another one that you go, please, can this just happen? And I have no problem with everything. So those were, I had transitions as well. And every step was a celebration, like unbelievable. However, in contrast, like that preschool moment, you, it's a funeral. It's a funeral over and over again. And that's okay to feel
Explain what
that
you
way.
mean by that. What do you mean by it's a funeral over and over again?
Um, as she would progress and her friend group would progress, the people we would hang out with, and my friends and their children, and they would go to this next step, and we would be years behind that step, or we would know that we would never hit that step. And it was somewhat, it's a mourning. You will mourn that loss. And it's okay. And it's the only way you can continue. If you don't mourn the loss, you're going to carry it and you can't move on. You'll get stuck in
What are,
denial. You'll get stuck in denial, and you're no good. You're no good to anybody if you're denying what is happening around you because you don't want it to be happening, which is real. You have to fight that and say, okay, we're not going to do this. This is not going to happen. And that's okay. Or maybe it's going to be in 20 years. That's okay. We're going to celebrate the little things we have here.
yeah, thank you. Can you give a couple examples of times when you felt that morning, like, oh, we're here again?
Yep. Oh, we're here again. Well, a big one, probably one of the hardest ones we experienced was when she turned 8, and in the church we attend, that's when they get baptized. And our belief is that when you make that choice, it's your decision, right? You decide if you want to be baptized. You decide if you want to make that commitment. And she was not able to, she could not physically, mentally make that commitment. And to feel that that was okay when everything, my entire life, that's what everybody did when they turned 8. That was a hard one to watch go by. But we had some special things happen that told us it's okay. We had some people reach out that we didn't even knew we were in that situation and say, hey, it's okay. You can still do this and this and this. And it was a very big turning point. And I think it helped me figure out the whole, you got to mourn and you got to be okay with it and find what's good for you and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, at the beginning, you talked about how that your prior experience, autism was scary.
Yes.
And you said that that kind of directed some of the things that you did. How did that impact when you first heard autism and that Rudy has autism? Where did your brain go and where did you take that information?
Well, the first thing I thought of was all the violence that I saw personally, firsthand, and that someone was institutionalized. And I immediately said, that cannot happen. And so from that point on, yes, we went to school. Yes, we did academics, but my focus was this will be a kind person. This will be a mindful person. And the only way that's possible is we don't see it in our home ever. So we were rated G, TV, movies, what the kids did, what they said. If someone had to be angry, we were not there. We left because I didn't even want her to see that that was an option. And then try to teach other things to do to deal with frustration.
Can you give us some examples of things that you taught her, ways that you taught her to deal with frustration?
Walks,
Mm,
leave the situation, which kind of bit us in a little bit in the future because then we got to a point where if we got scared, we're leaving. That's how we deal with this. We leave.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but as long as everybody was aware of that, it's fine. So that would be the other thing. One of the things I would say that was very beneficial is wherever she would go, someone knew everything about her that was important. Like if there's a scary thing, she is going to run. So there cannot be scary things here, and you need to be prepared for that and lock your doors. That's an example. If anybody is mean, she's gonna get up and leave the situation. She can't abide any kind of negativity. She will not abide it. Still to this day, I can't even call a cat fat. It's no, you mean fluffy, right, Mom? And so she is exactly the opposite of what I had seen, but we fought so hard. And my poor other children who helped us do this, didn't quite have the normal teenager life as the rest of everybody else. But I think we're all better people for our experience.
Thanks for sharing that. And speaking of which, I think that that leads us right into this next part that I wanted to talk about, and that is your Rudy posts. I'm
Yeah.
curious about how those came to be and why you decided to start posting, where you decided to start posting, and why, and just share with us a little bit about that.
Okay. So um, at the age of 3, she started losing any language that she had. And I was a no TV ma'am. I mean, my kids watched TV, but it was very limited. I wanted them to be creative. And anyways, I was pretty mindful of stuff like that. And one day Dora the Explorer was on. Here's a commercial for Dora. And she turned away. And this is where she had lost pretty much everything. She was not speaking in language anymore that we could understand. And she turned and looked at me and just recited everything that they just said off the screen. And I went, oh my goodness, start turning on the TVs. And so we did. We started letting her have time with TVs. And at school, they worked with her to learn scripted speech, where you memorize if someone says, hi, how are you? And you memorize the proper response. And with her short-term memory, they spent a lot of time on, hi, how are you? I'm fine, how are you? And so she started to learn that formula. If someone says something, you need to respond. And then at home, we're still trying to get language in. Yeah, she's learning all these words, but it's just, Dora lines, Scooby-Doo lines, all this stuff. And one day we took her to the school, and there was all these kids on this slide. And I was like, Rudy, go down the slide. You need to go down the slide. And she's like, I said, no, just do it. And so we talked her into it, and she got up and she went down the slide, and it was all these kids just packed together and waiting to go down. And she got down, and I said, how was it? And she said, humans are disgusting. And at that moment, she had taken lines that she had memorized from Ice Age and put it to mean something to us. And from that day, that moment on, she started to figure out that they were funny, for starters, right? If she could figure out how to put a line in that would make everybody laugh, she loved it. But that's how she started communicating to us. So I started using those one-liners and just started writing them down, right? And a friend of mine suggested, you should write those down. Those are funny stories. Those need to be kept. And then I just started putting some of them on Facebook and called them, Rudy moments or Rudy lines. And I felt like maybe from our experience, somebody else could benefit. Right? And so, and this was a way that Rudy could have a purpose, right? A purpose in life and be able to help other people. And that is why I started sharing. I also then began to write an autobiography about her. And it turned out to be so therapeutic for me. So my suggestion was, you don't have to write a book. I didn't publish it. It's not even done. It's got 11 chapters so far. And but it was very therapeutic to me. I felt heard. I felt like I was sharing and I felt heard. And so a journal or something about what's happening to me was very helpful.
Love that. So, Carrie, you saw these great things, these one-liners, these awesome moments. You started writing them down. You started to recognize that these could like give her purpose. Where did you go from there?
Well, I started recording them in my journal or a book, right? And then I just felt like I'm a big believer that everybody is here with a purpose. And I felt like, hey, this could be something that she can contribute. Yes, she needs help to do it, but I will contribute. And even now I'll say, do you want me to put that on Facebook? I will ask her, do you want this on Facebook? Do you want this? Do you want me to write that? Or she'll say, Mom, you should share that with our friends. And that usually means send it to her teachers at school. We have a text group, and put it on Facebook. And so that's where we went with that. But mainly it's just making her feel like she has purpose and she can contribute, um and completely honest, at first those one liners were my only happy moments. When you get real about it, when you're changing diapers on a 7-year-old who you have to clean out her food of her mouth before she goes to bed, she doesn't sleep at night, so you don't sleep at night. um and I was so excited to be a stay-home mom when I had her as a baby. And when she was 4, we had to decide it was better for someone else to take care of her during the day and put her in programs to try and achieve things. So when I finally got to be home with a kid, I had to be okay with letting someone else take care of her, like six hours a day, just so that she could progress. That was probably one of the hardest things. So when I got her and we got one-liners and they were happy moments, I collected them like seashells on a shore, right? They were so cool. So as I'm recording these things, one of the things that is really hard for Rudy is to express her feelings or even be around people with having feelings. Like if we're watching something, if there's any kind of emotion coming in, she's gone. She leaves the room. And one of the things is, I think in her lifetime, maybe she said, I love you twice. And those moments I have recorded and have them documented, but those words do not come. And it doesn't mean she doesn't. She just can't express it. And so it's just crazy. Because I know she does. She doesn't want to be anywhere else but here and with us. And and she loves the time we have together, and she loves to be with us and do the things that we do. And so, but that's another morning, right? Back to the morning thing. That is just a thing. And it's unbelievable. A lot of people are just thrown by that, but it is a thing. And you just got to be okay with it and move on. But so I record all that, those types of things. And she's told me she's loved me in different ways, in words. And I think one is, I was in the kitchen and she's like, Mom, you're you're a whiz in the kitchen, Mom. She's giving me, she wanders around all day giving me compliments all day long like that. Oh, you're so good at cooking, Mom, but usually that means I'm hungry. So, but still, it's way better than, what are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? It's, you're such a good cook, Mom. So we could all learn from Rudy about with that. So anyways, so those are great, and those are shareable, and they make people laugh, and they also put a better face on the label of autism.
Love that. That brings me to my next question. And I just want to highlight a couple of things here. First of all, I love the fact that you give Rudy a voice in whether or not she wants these things posted, which allows her to be a part of that process. I also think it's important to mention that Rudy is not her actual name, but when
Yes.
she's in the public eye, that is what she goes by, so that you have been able to protect that private part, but also to be able to give her that voice in a way that's safe. So
Mhm.
just wanted to highlight that. But I'm curious, as you started posting on Facebook, what did you see come from that? What experiences did you have? Did others respond in ways that showed you it was making a difference in their lives?
Absolutely. And a lot of people tell me, hey, you don't post as many Rudy moments as you used to. That's what I have, I don't know, you can look. I have over, I don't know, 1,300 people on Facebook. And this is just my normal Facebook account, but they're all there looking for Rudy moments. That's what they're there for. I try to make sure there's one a day. A lot of times they're historical ones. I love that fact on Facebook. It'll show you memories, and I can just put, oh, that's a good one, and I'll just put that one. Usually on her birthday or around April 1st when they celebrate and recognize autism, I'll just do a bam list of all these Rudy quotes and moments on there. But no, I have people that have said, I absolutely had to have that today. And she's been able to work with people where they were serving her, and in the end she has been the one that has served them. They just find so much joy being around her, and so that's been such a blessing. um yes, does that
Oh,
answer the question?
it does. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you think about your story, is there any advice that you would give to families that find themselves in a similar situation? You've given us advice throughout, but do you have any other
um,
words of wisdom you want to share?
well, yes, first of all, one of the best things I've ever came across, and anybody, this has been written about autism, but anybody who has a child with disability, they go through this. The name of this is called Welcome to Holland by Emily Kingsley. It's one of the best things I've ever seen written. It's the most accurate description of what it is like to have a disabled child. And it's just a story. Um, should I explain the story, or do we let people find it? You could attach it,
I
maybe.
was gonna say, why don't I link it
Link
to
it.
this post?
It's completely worth the read. I read it often. I mean, not like every day or anything, but a couple times a year I go back to it. Because it explains. And when someone asks me, well, what is it like? Is it, what can I do to help or whatever? I'm like, read this first,
Hmm.
where we're at, so that they can understand it. Because someone looking in is like, I don't understand. It's because they're living somewhere else and not where I live. It's a two different worlds. Anyway, so I've always felt like that is a huge, it's benefited me to share that with people. Um, the other thing is give people information, not personal information, but information on a paper. Like, let's say you attend church and there's classes that they attend. Give that teacher a list of Rudy's favorite things, Rudy's things that she doesn't like don't ever turn off the lights or she'll be gone. Give them a list so they can make this a good experience and give them some independence in their classroom. But you could do that with friends, parents, friends, anywhere Rudy is going to go, educate them. And then they don't feel awkward about it. I remember sitting down in a meeting next to someone who had Down syndrome, and her sister came and sat between us, and she said, I'm going to sit here so you don't feel weird. And I was like, what? She had no idea who I was and that I knew exactly what I was doing when I sat next to her. But to me, that attitude is not awesome. It doesn't help. But I mean, maybe she felt like she should, because maybe her sister does things in this meeting that would be weird and someone need to sit by her. But
And who knows what experiences she's had where
yeah,
she's been made to feel like her
that's
sister
right.
is weird.
And
But
so I didn't
yeah.
take offense, because I thought, oh, I get it. I know why you did that and said that. But but if you can prepare people beforehand and ahead of time and just give information, is so much power. Education is complete power. So that is something I would say. The other thing I'm going to go back to, you're going to mourn and you need to mourn. If you bury it, it's not going anywhere. and you can't figure out how to live in the new world that you live in. I'm looking, I wrote down some things. The other thing I would say is find out what they what they can do. What is their mission? Everybody here has a purpose. I mean, it could be tiny, but everybody needs to feel purposeful, and you can have great joy from that. And the person that you're trying to help with this disability, if they feel needed, that is everything. That is absolutely everything. If they feel like someone needs them to contribute, whatever it is, that's huge. And so, helping your child feel needed, feel like they're contributing, feeling like that they're a part of whatever you're trying to accomplish, even, whatever it is, doing the dishes, whatever it is. I don't know if that makes sense. Those are the two big ones, I think, because then you feel like you're doing something. You're not just changing diapers, right? You're blessing other people through your family experiences. And you're blessing this child to feel needed. That's way more gratitude personally inside. Our internal bodies translate that way better than there's it's hard to feel like someone appreciates you changing their diaper, or feeding them through a tube. All that stuff is hard, and you're keeping them alive and whatever. But if you can find any way for them to feel needed, that's going to it'll make it all worth it.
I love what you shared there, and also the fact that yes, it did help. It was a way to help them feel needed, but it was also a way that still stayed true to who you are too.
Yes.
That moment of humor, that's something that you already see in life. You didn't have to change anything about yourself. You just became intentional about finding the joy and sharing the joy. So I appreciate you sharing that part of your experience. And for somebody else who might find themselves in a similar boat, that might not be the right way to do it for them.
I'll give you my favorite line from Rudy over about this question. If there wasn't a wolf in my story, what would be the point?
If there wasn't a what in your story, say that one more time.
A big bad wolf in my story, what would be the point?
Oh, I love that.
That's one of my favorite lines. If I ever finish the book, that'll probably be the title. I'll have to get copyright. That's the problem. I'm writing the book. I have to get permission from all these companies that we can use all these lines. But anyways, that to me sums it up.
Love that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Well, is there anything else that you want to share?
Um, I think that's for now. There's always plenty, but one other thing that helped me as a parent was helping other people in this situation. I mean, if you're just at home just dealing with whatever, it's hard. But if you can take what you learned and help somebody else, you feel so much better. It gives you more value, you personally. And I want to go back to that doctor said, if you're not happy, the child will never be happy. If the family is not happy, there's no way to help the child be happy because the environment is not happy. And so you have to decide how much resources. We could have went out and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars the minute she was diagnosed to try and better her life. And we could have gone into debt over it. We could have done all kinds of things, but that would have been a sacrifice for all three of our other children. Instead, we did what was available, the services, and a little more money here, there, and got her some things that would make her life better and happier. And our other kids were always a part of the process, understood what was happening, and so that they would be on board and know. So it was a team effort. But my kids got to play club volleyball. If we would have just all in there, we would never had resources to do the things that they wanted to do too. And anyways, I think that's huge. As soon as you realize the environment's the most important thing, then you can move mountains. It's possible. We've moved a few.
Love that. That sounds like future episodes right there, hearing about these mountains that have moved.
Yeah.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much for your time. I'd like to finish with one last question.
Yes.
And that is, with this idea of it takes a village, if somebody just within this village feels like they would like to help, what advice would you give?
Yeah, so there's someone out there that would love to help a kiddo and their family. Get to know the kid. Find out what, so she'd never ridden a bus before, and we moved to a rural area, and you ride a bus. And this sweet bus driver and his wife reached out. What's her favorite treat? She got a Kit Kat every time she got off the bus. And they are some of her favorite people. And it was a little thing, right? Little thing. During COVID was a huge thing. She was excited. She didn't like to go anywhere, right? But that was so tragic for us to try and recover from that. But during COVID, so here's the story. Rudy doesn't like the song Happy Birthday. She doesn't like people singing to her. And so we'd always just call it Rudy Day. Well, when COVID happened, everybody would do the out here in the rural America, people would get in cars and come to your driveway and just down and yell. You would go outside and they go, happy birthday. They knew that she didn't like that, but they knew she loved Christmas. And so these people came. We had at least 20 cars come through our circle driveway, bringing little Christmas ornaments, posters that said, Happy Christmas Day, Rudy, all this stuff. And it just made her day. We still have them in her room. Those posters are still in her room. But information is power. If you want to help a kiddo, just ask mom, hey, is there something I can do to help? Is there ever anything I shouldn't do? And is there a treat, or do we not do treats? Do they like color books? Is there something I could get this person? I'd like to build a relationship. If you tell them, I would love to build a relationship here, they can help you with how to do that. And it will help them, because absolutely it takes a village to help somebody with disabilities. Absolutely. And the caregivers there, they need breaks. They need help. And if you can build a relationship there, and then you can come in and give relief, so maybe mom and dad could go on a date, whatever, that's where I would start. Build a relationship, and then it can go from there, and you'll learn and see how you could help. Because there's gonna be times mom and dad will say, no, we're good. We don't need help, because they don't want to deal with the fallout if something went wrong. So just be a friend and build a relationship. And eventually, you'll have an opportunity, and it'll bless your life. You will be blown away at how much you get from doing the little things that you do.
That's such great advice. Thank you so much. Again, I really appreciate your time, and I hope this was helpful to all of our listeners out there. And if there was something helpful, I hope that you'll consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video with others so that others who need the support can find it as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day.